The nurse came in and said, hold on, try not to bear down. Your doctor is not here, and we think the doctor on call has left. So there's not a doctor to deliver your baby right now. Okay. Hello, my name is Simber, and you are watching Homesteading at Kooker Kids. And this week, my daughter turned 1 year old. And I've been wanting to tell her birth story because the labor and delivery of her was only 2.5 hours. Yeah, no joke. But in order for that story to make sense, I really need to tell the story of the labor and delivery of my first child, Malachi. And he is a little over 3 years old. Now, I will go ahead and go into some details, so if it's not appropriate content for young ears, you may want to have them not watch this video, or if you're a little bit squeamish talking about medical things, then this video may not be for you. I'm going to go ahead and be honest and open because I'm a biologist and because I'm a farm girl. So to me, it's just natural processes. So with my son Malachi, I was actually a week and 2 days late before he decided to come. And I had to encourage my doctor to allow me to wait at least a week to see if my body would, you know, kind of do the process on its own, because I didn't want to be induced unless it was absolutely necessary. Now, a little bit of background, he is my first child, and I was 31.5-ish, a little bit more than that, whenever he was born. So, you know, there was a little concern because I started later in life with birth and babies that there may be some complications, but the pregnancy had gone well. I hate pregnancy. I love kiddos, I love babies, but I hate pregnancy. And it was a lot to get adjusted to everything that was going on in my body during that first pregnancy. But as far as medical conditions, it was a great pregnancy. So the last appointment that I went to my OBGYN, she actually stripped the membranes, which is where they use their finger and they basically do a round the clock kind of thing and separate the placenta from the uterus. And that is to try to not induce labor, but it kind of lets the body know, hey, we need to go ahead and start working on this process. Now, the reason I say it doesn't induce labor is they don't technically call it an inducement, but it frequently causes ladies to go into labor within a few days after. So I went on I believe it was a Wednesday, and by the night of the following day, that's when I started going into labor. So I had been having some GI things going on, so essentially I had diarrhea. And so I was in the bathroom that night at about midnight with some of that stuff. So I thought that cramping was just part of it, and it probably was. But thankfully I'd had a coworker tell me that if you have a high pain tolerance, which apparently I have, that sometimes labor can feel like when you have a GI issue, a stomach issue with that kind of cramping. So, or at least the early parts of labor. The end parts, I don't think you'll confuse that. Anyway, and so when I woke up again around 2, again, I was in the bathroom, but as I was coming back into the bedroom and looking at the clock, I was realizing these cramps were coming every 2 to 3 minutes. And because it was so episodic and like on the minutes, I realized I might be in labor. So we called because we live approximately 50 minutes to an hour away from the hospital, and it was of course after hours because, you know, all this stuff tends to happen at night when your doctor's not there. And the lady came on the phone, she's like, ma'am, you're talking awfully well to be in labor. I don't think you're in labor, but because you're an hour away, I'm going to contact your doctor and tell her to meet you there. You go ahead and come on in. So Justin and I get ready, Justin's my husband, and we start going, and my contractions actually started spreading out to 3 to 4 minutes. And I was like, well, babe, maybe we just need to head home. Because I didn't want to pay an extra hospital fee, because I didn't want to be put in the hospital and like be checked in and then have to go back home, and then we're paying double fees, right? So Justin said, no, we are going to go to the hospital, and then they can tell us if we need to go home. Smart man. And so anyway, we got to the hospital around 4-ish when we got to the hospital and got checked into the room. When we got admitted, that's where I was trying to come to. We got admitted. And so anyway, of course, even though we pre-registered, I don't know why hospitals do it. I think it's the dumbest thing ever. Even though we provided all of our information online far in advance, like a few weeks in advance, they still, when you're laying there on the bed in labor, ask you all these questions. And you're like, I've already answered all this. Of course you don't say that because, you know, you're a nice Southern girl. But you're having to tell them, okay, hold on. I can't talk during the contraction. Hold on. Because my thing is, instead of doing like Lamaze or anything like that, I counted and used the counting as kind of like it was something to concentrate on, kind of like a meditation. Gave me something to concentrate on, and it gave me a time frame that I would know consistently, okay, I know up to this many seconds it's going to be, you know, medium pain, and then for these seconds it's going to be the intense pain, and then it should taper off after that. And that's what kind of got me through it. That, and then breathing, and as my sister-in-law's mother told me, relaxing in between contractions. As much as you can relax between contractions, do that, because that helps your body rest and it allows you to get through the next contraction. So anyway, I'm answering all their questions. They got me all hooked up, because apparently, even though I didn't have any high blood pressure issues the whole pregnancy, no concern whatsoever of preeclampsia, my blood pressure was high and they couldn't figure out why. And so they had the baby heart monitor on me, they had my contraction monitor on me, and they had a blood pressure cuff going off every few minutes because they were trying to monitor my blood pressure. And by the way, they had me stuck on the bed on my side and then rolling to the other side periodically because they would not allow me to stand up. That really frustrated me, because everything I'd seen about trying to give a natural birth says you try to find the position that's best for you. And that could be standing, it could be rocking, it could even be in like a doggy or horse position, just kind of having slow movements. But you find the position that's best for you to allow your joints to expand as they need to during that labor process. But because my blood pressure was high and they couldn't explain it, I was stuck on the bed. Really irritated about that then and now, but I will digress at this point. So anyway, I'm going through the labor pains, and of course, you know, the medical profession is used to women laboring for hours, and so often the nurses will go out of the room and it's just you in the room going through the process, and then whatever significant other or other family members, loved ones you have that you want there with you during this beautiful time. So one of the times when they came back, I was like, okay, I think I'm ready to wimp out now, because I was trying to do it naturally without having an epidural. But I told her, I think I'm ready to wimp out now. Let's talk about that epidural. And she said, well, honestly, let me call your doctor, see what she says. So she comes back in a little bit later and says, okay, your doctor said, I know this girl, you need to check her. So she finally checked me to see how far dilated I was. And she's like, oh. And she checked again. Oh, you're dilated at an 8. Now, mind you, this whole time, my water had not broken. And I hadn't been making like tons of noise, because again, remember, apparently I have a kind of high pain tolerance threshold on certain things, not other things. So anyway, it says, you're dilated at an 8. No wonder your blood pressure has been high. You've been in active labor this whole time. Now remember, I said I got there at about 4. Things progressed fairly quickly, apparently, for a first time labor and delivery. because Malachi, a little bit of a spoiler alert, was born right before 9 o'clock. I think it was 8:53 in the morning. So that's like 5 hours. So my whole labor time was probably about 7 or so hours, which for a first-time baby, I'm incredibly blessed for that. So as soon as she realized that I was actively laboring and getting very close to having the baby, she didn't really tell me I couldn't have the epidural, but I said, how much more painful is it going to get? Because I don't think I can do much more than this. She said, honestly, at this point, it probably won't be much more pain than what you've already gone through. And then the conversation just kind of dropped. So again, because she now knew I was in active labor and was almost ready, she got permission from my doctor to allow me to stand up. I was over the birthing ball. My parents got there. My water suddenly broke. I was like, I think my water broke. My dad looked, yep, your water broke. Because he worked in the ER for a while when he was younger. And as soon as my water broke, my body literally arched on the next contraction, and I had this cave woman guttural, no joke. I could not control it. It was what was happening. And guess what happened? The nurse came in and said, hold on, try not to bear down. Your doctor is not here, and we think the doctor on call has left. So there's not a doctor to deliver your baby right now. Okay. So I'm clenching onto my husband through a couple more contractions, because each contraction was at, and things were pushing, couldn't control it. And finally, the nurse came back in and said, I can't not bear down, because my body was taking over and there was no stopping it. Thankfully, my doctor got there and she's like, oh. And so she's quickly putting on their garb. They get the bed ready. I get on the bed. And honestly, within, I'm wanting to say it was less than 7 pushes. It may have been more like 3 or, well, maybe 3 to 5 pushes. Malachi was out. Because by the time I got on the bed, he was already crowning. My doctor told me, push like you feel like you got a BM. I said, push like I got a poop. I can do that because that's what it feels like. Because I'd had a lot of rectal pressure, like major. I felt, sorry this may be TMI, but I felt like I was about to push a watermelon out my butt. So thankfully I didn't have that feeling that strongly with Gwen. The second time was much easier as far as pain. And like on Malachi, there was a time, probably half an hour or more, I could literally feel the pressure on my hips, like intense, which was when my hips were spreading. Unfortunately, because they had me laying on my side, I was fighting against gravity instead of being able to find a comfortable position. But again, I digress. So anyway, Malachi was birthed within a few pushes, right? And he came through the birth canal so fast, after he'd been on my chest for a little while, I was like, I don't think he's breathing quite right. He wasn't blue or anything, but I noticed he was maybe struggling a little bit. And so they went, cleared out some of the fluid, and then throughout that next day, he spit up a couple of times to get some of that amniotic fluid out. But I was very proud of my husband. He did 3 things that he said he would not do. He looked, he held my leg up during the actual pushing portion, and he cut the cord. So I was very proud of Justin through, you know, his growth in that. So that's essentially the story of Malachi being born. Again, about a 7 or so hour labor and delivery. But the crazy part about his is very different from Gwen's, is I was laboring for a while before my water broke. And as soon as my water broke, I went into heavy contractions. So from the time my water broke to when he was born, it was less than half an hour. All right, y'all check back soon to hear the story of Gwendolyn's labor and delivery, because that one's even more entertaining and crazy. I hope you enjoyed this kind of video. I have a playlist that's for mamas, all about mama stuff, and I plan on doing more with that. We'll start putting some products that we really like and enjoy, that we've kind of learned about through the process of becoming parents. But if you ever have any questions about things that maybe other people find uncouth or uncomfortable to talk about, feel free to ask me. Now, obviously, be considerate of others. Don't be crude. But if it's something that's legit, something about your body that's going on that you just want to see if somebody else has experienced, feel free to ask, because to me, that open sharing is something we should be doing and not keeping these things taboo, because it was through talking to a lot of people that I felt more comfortable through the process of pregnancy and labor and delivery. And I didn't even touch on the secondary infection that I got. Within like 2 weeks, I got a secondary infection, had to go back in the hospital on 4 IV antibiotics for like 5 days, and then oral antibiotics for 2 weeks after that. That's a whole bunch of craziness, but that's for a different time. All right, y'all. Thanks for watching, and God bless.
For watching the video, push the thumbs up to like the video. Also hit that subscribe button, also the bell, so that you can get notifications when our videos come out.
Check us out on our social media pages too. The links are below. Bye, y'all.
Bye.